Knowing how to properly tune a pedal steel guitar is an art form in itself. The strings of the pedal steel have to be compensated or tempered when tuning. Some of the strings will be tuned slightly flat, while others are tuned slightly sharp. Also, the pedal steel requires more frequent tuning since the strings are constantly being stretched. There's 3 ways to tune: using an electronic tuner, harmonies, and chords. In this video, we're going to work with an electronic tuner, specifically the Peterson Strobostomp HD. It's already loaded with compensated presets specifically made for pedal steel guitar and absolutely one of the most fantastic tuners out on the market. The Peterson Strobostomp HD is a real strobe tuner. Strobe tuners are more sensitive and more accurate, up to 0.1% accurate. It can be powered by a 9-volt battery or regulated by a 9-volt DC power supply. It can be set up in true bypass mode, buffered bypass mode, or buffered bypass monitor mode. That's the mode we'll be using in this video. It contains 130 compensated presets catered to specific instruments, 20 of those aimed at pedal steel and lap steel guitar that contain the compensated tuning methods of Jeff Newman, Sid Hudson, Sneaky Pete, Emmons, and others. I'll make sure to include links in the description below for the manual and the tuning presets. Before we get started tuning, I'm going to encourage everyone to click on the links below for the manual and for the presets so that you'll be able to navigate your way through the tuner to get to the presets and so you can determine what presets you'll need to use. Once again, this is going to be for E9. I have chosen the presets EM9 and EP9 for the Emmons guitars. For all you push-pull players, you'll need to use a different sequence in tuning. You'll tune pedals down and then open. For the more modern guitars, we're going to tune open first and then the pedals. All right, here's a sequence that I like to use. I like to start out with my E's, strings 4 and 8. So I'm going to start out with string 4. If it's moving to the right, it's sharp. If it's moving to the left, it's flat. String 8, my other E. I like to go to string 5 next, which is a B. Then I like to go to string 6, which is a G sharp. I like to go to string 3 next, which is another G sharp. Then string 10, which is a B. Then string 1, which is an F sharp. String 2, which is a D sharp. String 7, which is another F sharp. And then string 9, which is a D. Once I've finished tuning and I've got the strobe to sit still, I like to hit groups 10, 8, and 6. Then 8, 6, and 5. Listening for tune. String 6, 5, 4. Then strings 5, 4, 3. Let's tune the pedals and the knee levers. You will need the tool for pedal and knee lever adjustment points at the changer end of the guitar, generally found down here, and you'll usually see hex nuts or Allen screws. Before we tune the pedals, I do want to double check my tuning open, no pedals, to make sure we're still in tune. I'm going to hit strings 10, 8, 6, 5, and 4. Still sounds good. I've also went in and changed my tuning preset on the Peterson Strobostomp HD to the EP9 setting. That's an Emmons guitar with pedals down. One thing I want to mention before we start tuning the pedals is on my pedaling foot, you may notice that I push the B pedal down when I'm tuning the A and the C pedals. That allows for what we call cabinet drop. If you notice when you move your pedals around, the guitar moves around a little bit. That's what we call cabinet drop. So it's a good practice to always be pushing the B pedal down while you're tuning the A and the C pedals. All right, let's start with the A pedal. It's the pedal that raises your 5th and your 10th strings from a B to a C sharp. So here's the 5th string. Looks good. And the 10th string. Looks to be a little flat. So I'm going to take that A pedal I'm going to wiggle it around, and I'm going to go to the changer end of the guitar, and I'm going to find the hex nut that tunes that string or that pedal, and I'm going to adjust it accordingly. And there we go. Moving on to the B pedal, it's the pedal that moves your third and your sixth string from a G sharp to an A. So here's the third string. Looks good. And the sixth string. Moving on to the C pedal, it's the pedal that raises your fourth string from an E to an F sharp and your fifth string from a B to a C sharp. So I'm pressing that C pedal down. Again, notice I have the B pedal down with it to allow for the cabinet drop. So here's the fourth string. Looks good. And the fifth string. Looks good. I'm going to move on to the knee levers. Let's start with the one that raises your fourth and your eighth strings from an E to an F. So I've engaged that knee lever. I'm going to hit my fourth string. Looks good. And my eighth string. That one looks to be a little bit flat. I'm going to wiggle that knee lever around. I'm going to find the adjustment here at the changer end of the guitar. And I'm going to adjust it until it sits still. That looks good. Now I'm going to move on to the knee lever that lowers your fourth and your eighth strings from an E to a D sharp. Here's the fourth string. Looks good. And the eighth string. Now I'm going to stop there with the levers. I want you to tune the remainder of your pedals and your knee levers according to your guitar specific copedent. The ones that I covered are pretty standard for most E9 setups. Once we get to that point, we're going to want to double check our tuning a couple of different ways. I like to do it this way. So I'm going to hit strings 10, 8, 6, 5, 4, and 3 with no pedals. Listening for tune. Sounds good. Now I'm going to push the A's and the B pedal down. I'm going to hit the same string grouping. 10, 8, 6, 5, 4, 3. Listening for tune. Sounds good. I'm going to take the knee lever that lowers your E's to D sharp, and I'm going to hit this string grouping. I'm going to hit 10, 8, 7, then 8, 7, 5, 7, 5, 4. Listening for tune. Sounds good. And then I'm going to finish it off with the A pedal down and the knee lever engage that raises your fourth and your eighth strings from an E to an F. I'm going to hit strings 10, 8, 6, 8, 6, 5, and then 5, 4, and 6. All sounds pretty good. So there you go.